My ex-husband packed his bags like he was starring in his own movie. He left like I was the problem. And then, 2 years later, he showed up at my door with flowers, a speech, and absolutely no shame whatsoever. But what he didn't know, and what no one else knew, was that I had been waiting for exactly this. But before we continue, please make sure to like, subscribe, and kindly drop a comment on the location from where you're watching. I want you to understand something about the morning Ryan Cole showed up at my door. I was having a genuinely good day, coffee at the right temperature, good robe, and a novel I was actually enjoying. Absolutely no one requiring anything from me. Then the doorbell rang. I ignored it at first. It rang again. Then I opened the door and nearly dropped my coffee. Ryan, my ex-husband, and I standing on my front step with flowers, the expensive kind from the good florist, not the grocery store, wearing the smile I had spent 2 years learning to read correctly. "Hey," he said, "I've been thinking, and Tessa, I made a mistake. Can we talk?" I looked at him. I looked at the flowers. I looked back at his face, and I thought, right on schedule. Because here is the thing about that moment. The thing I have never told anyone except Jade, and even Jade only found out later. I had been expecting him, not that day specifically, but I had known he was coming. I had known since the moment Bernard called me about the inheritance, because I knew Ryan, and I knew that this was always going to be the test, the final one. The question was only whether he would pass it. And he was holding flowers and smiling, and I already knew the answer. But I had a plan. "Ryan," I said, "what a surprise. I know I don't deserve a conversation." "Come in," I said. He walked into my house, looking around at everything. The high ceilings, the light, the evidence of a life that had expanded in his absence. And something moved across his face that he didn't have time to manage. "Nice place," he said. "Thank you," I said. "Coffee?" He said yes. And the game began. Here's what you need to know about Ryan Cole and why this story is the way it is. We were married for 4 years. He wanted a rival. I was in the middle of becoming. He wanted stability. I was building toward it. The gap between those two positions widened slowly, and then all at once, the way most things break. And the money was the flashpoint. Freelance brand consulting. Genuinely promising, genuinely inconsistent. Ryan had a stable salary and an unstable tolerance for uncertainty. In year 3, 2 contracts fell through. One major client restructured, and things got tight. Not catastrophic. Not leave your wife tight. Ryan disagreed about the threshold. The leaving was theatrical in a way I could not have predicted. He packed a suitcase while I was at my desk. I thought he was looking for gym clothes. He appeared in my office doorway with a full rolling case and the expression of a man who had rehearsed. "I deserve a life that's going somewhere, Tessa." "Ryan, are you leaving right now? On a Tuesday?" He did the speech anyway. Full speech. Beginning, middle, devastating conclusion. And I watched from my desk chair with the dazed attention of someone watching a medium-quality production they didn't buy tickets for. He rolled that suitcase out at 2:43 in the afternoon. 40 minutes later, his mother called. Gloria Cole. A woman I had spent 4 years failing to win over, cried on the phone for 11 minutes. Not for me, for Ryan. He could have had anyone, Tessa. Anyone. I held the phone away from my ear, looked at the ceiling. "Gloria," I said, "I think you've called the wrong person." I hung up. Then I sat on my kitchen floor for a while. And then, here is the part nobody knew. I made a phone call of my own. Let me tell you what I knew. 3 months before Ryan left me, I had received a letter. Not from my father's lawyer, that came later. This was from my father himself, handwritten. The stiff, formal handwriting of a man who was not comfortable with intimacy, but was trying. He was ill, the letter said, not imminently, but seriously. He wanted me to know that he had made arrangements. He wanted me to know that I was in them. Significantly, He gave me a number. I sat with that letter for a week, and then I did something I am not entirely proud of and entirely at peace with simultaneously. I told no one. Not Jade, not Ryan, not anyone. Because Ryan and I were in the worst stretch of the marriage, and I needed to know something. I needed to know whether the man I was married to would stay when things were hard, whether, when I had nothing visible on the horizon, he would be the person who held steady. I gave him 3 months. He lasted 2.5. He rolled his suitcase out on a Tuesday, and I sat on my kitchen floor, and I thought, well, now I know. It was not the outcome I had wanted, but it was the truth I had needed. I filed for divorce. The inheritance came through 8 months later, and when Bernard called, my father's brother, a tall man with parrot shirts and a laugh that arrived before the punchline, and walked me through the full picture of what my father had left me, I accepted it quietly, and I waited. Because I knew Ryan would find out eventually, and I knew exactly what he would do when he did. Jade arrived the morning after Ryan's first visit. She came with coffee, snacks, and what she called research, delivered with the energy of someone who has been waiting years for a specific situation to arrive. "He's broke," she said, spreading across my kitchen counter. "Not regular broke. Recently, specifically, embarrassingly broke. Diane? Diane left him 4 months ago." Jade said this with tremendous satisfaction. Apparently, the life that was going somewhere required more effort than Ryan was prepared to sustain. And the money situation? Investments that did not invest. Air quotes. He's renting a room from a university friend, 1 room, and Tessa... She paused for effect. "Gloria has called you 3 times. "I know, I haven't answered." "She left a voicemail." She played it. Gloria's voice filled my kitchen. Warm, breathy, completely unrecognizable from the woman who had spent 4 years treating me like a disappointing appliance. "Tessa, darling, it's Gloria. I've just been thinking about you so much. I always thought of you as a daughter. Always. Or I've been making my lamb stew. You always loved my lamb stew." I had never had Gloria's lamb stew. I had been to her house twice, and both times she had made pointed comments about my cooking. "You call me anytime, anytime." Jade stopped the recording. We looked at each other. "She once told me my gravy was thin," I said. "I was there," Jade confirmed, "in front of everyone. At Christmas. And now I'm her daughter." "Always," Jade said solemnly. We lasted about 4 seconds before we both completely lost it. I called Ryan back that afternoon. "I've been thinking," I said. "I'm not ready to make decisions, but I'm open to spending some time together. Low pressure." "Absolutely," he said. Too quickly. Whatever pace you need." "I need someone to come look at a property with me on Thursday." Another career pause as he recalibrated. Then, "I'd love to." He came. He offered opinions he didn't have. He nodded seriously at things he didn't understand. He reached for my hand on the way out, and I let him hold it for exactly long enough to establish a precedent. "I have a call," I said, checking my phone. "Thank you for coming." "Of course. Anytime." "Really?" I reported to Jade that evening. "Next," she said, eating crisps on my sofa, "make him apologize to someone publicly." "Mrs. Patterson," I said immediately. "He was rude about her roses." "Perfect." Ryan apologized to Mrs. Patterson on a Saturday morning without knowing why we were there until the door opened and she looked at him with the face of a woman who had not forgotten the rose incident. He apologized. She received it with great dignity. She invited us in for tea. She talked about her garden for 45 minutes. Ryan sat on her floral sofa and nodded throughout. I had a wonderful time. Gloria arrived the following week with lamb stew and a new hairstyle. She walked into my house, cataloged everything with the systematic attention of a woman conducting an estate valuation, then turned to me with an expression of prepared contrition. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I wasn't kind to you during the marriage." I appreciate that, Gloria. I always thought of you as a daughter. The gravy, though, I said pleasantly. A Christmas, 4 years ago. She blinked. You said it was thin, in front of everyone. I think you may have. You said, Tessa's gravy is a bit thin, isn't it, Ryan? And Ryan said, it's fine, Mom. And you said, I'm just saying. Gloria looked at me for a long moment. The important thing, she said carefully, is that we move forward. Absolutely, I said, let's have that stew. Jade arrived 45 minutes later, exactly on schedule. She walked into my kitchen, found Gloria Cole serving me lamb stew and calling me darling, and produced the single most satisfying facial expression I have ever witnessed. She sat down. She accepted a bowl. She looked at me across the table. I looked back. We were both perfectly composed. 3 weeks in, something happened that I had not planned for. We were at a gallery opening. Jade had invited herself along, positioned as a friend, casually, no big deal. And everything was going smoothly. Ryan was performing attentive partner with his usual commitment. Jade was watching with her usual unsettling focus. Then a man approached. I knew him vaguely. A contact from the old networking days, the kind of person who files everyone according to professional utility. He looked at me, then at Ryan, then back at me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Tessa Vaughn, he said. I heard about the Vaughn inheritance. Quite the turnaround. He said it in the voice people use when they mean something else entirely. Something about luck, about unexpectedness, about not quite deserving. I kept my expression neutral, so Ryan stepped forward. I'm not sure what you mean by turnaround, he said, pleasantly enough, but with a flatness underneath it. Tessa has been building her consultancy for years. The inheritance is her father's acknowledgement of who she already was. The man blinked, recalibrated, said something vague and moved away. Ryan turned back to me. The gallery was loud around us. Jade, 3 feet to my left, had gone very still. Thank you, I said carefully. He was being reductive, Ryan said with a small shrug. You didn't need the help, but he annoyed me. We moved on. The evening continued. Later in the car, Jade waited until Ryan had said goodnight and walked away before she turned to me. That was real, she said quietly. I know. I know, Jade. A silence. Does it change anything? She asked. I looked out the window, at the city, at the ordinary, indifferent movement of a night that didn't know it was significant. No, I said. Why? Because one real moment doesn't rewrite 2 years of absence, I said, and because I still need to know something. Jade looked at me. What? I told her. She was quiet for a long time. Then, how long have you been sitting on this? Since before he left? Another silence. Tessa. Yes. You are genuinely the most composed person I have ever met in my life. I had a good reason to be patient. What's the reason? I turned to her. I needed to see if he'd do it again. 2 days before the proposal, because I knew it was coming, and I could feel the choreography building, Jade called me with something unexpected. He's been recording you, she said. I went very still. Say that again. My cousin, the one who lives 2 streets over. She knows someone who knows Ryan's university friend, the one he's renting from. Jade's voice was careful, precise. Apparently, Ryan has been recording conversations. Your conversations. He has a solicitor he's been speaking to about the inheritance, about whether, if you reconciled and then separated again, there's any claim. The kitchen was very quiet. How long? I asked. Since week 2. I sat with that, the gallery moment, his defense of me. You didn't need the help. Still real, perhaps. Even people running operations have real moments, that's what makes them effective. But framed now, indifferently. Jade, I said. Yes. Remember when you asked if anything had changed my mind? Yes. This is why the answer was no. A pause. You knew. I suspected, I said. I needed to be certain. What are we going to do? I looked at the window, at the garden, at the house my father had left me room to live in. Nothing, I said. Not yet. We're going to let him propose. And then I'm going to explain some things, I said, publicly. He chose the restaurant from our first date, which I had suggested 2 weeks prior in what I had allowed to appear to be an unguarded nostalgic moment. He had reserved a table, spoken to the manager, arranged a signal. Ryan did love a production. Jade was at the adjacent table in what she called her witnessing dress. She had a mocktail, a cousin, and 2 friends she had briefed to varying degrees. The dinner was excellent. Ryan was at his best. Attentive, warm, the version of himself that had worked on me once and still carried enough genuine quality to be complicated. I ate well. I was calm. I was wearing the dress I'd bought in Rome because I felt like it, and I felt like myself, and I was entirely ready. He stood up, box in hand, room turning to watch, the choreography executing exactly as planned. Tessa, he said, I know I don't deserve this. I know I have to earn it, but I've never stopped. I let him finish. I let the silence arrive. I stood up. He blinked. Standing was not part of his choreography. The manager appeared with a microphone. And because of course there was a microphone, I took it. I looked at Ryan. Then I looked at the room. I want to say something properly, I said, because Ryan deserves an honest answer. I looked back at him. When I had nothing, you left, I said. You packed your suitcase on a Tuesday afternoon and told me I was the reason your life wasn't going somewhere. I kept my voice even, and then you came back when you heard I had money. You brought flowers and speeches and recordings. Something shifted in his face. Yes, I said quietly. I know about the recordings. I know about the solicitor. I held his gaze. I knew before you proposed. I let you get here anyway. Do you want to know why? He said nothing. Because I needed you to show me, properly, finally, in front of people, exactly who you are. I paused. And you have. Twice now. Consistently. I set the microphone down. This isn't a second chance, I said. It's your closure. Then, and this was the part I had saved, the part I had been sitting on since the letter arrived, since I read my father's handwriting at my kitchen table. I looked at him one final time. Oh, I said. And Ryan? The inheritance has a condition. It did from the beginning. My father's lawyers built it in. If I'm married within 3 years of receiving it, the estate reverts to a charitable trust. I watched his face. Uncle Bernard can confirm. He's actually here. I nodded toward a table in the corner. Bernard raised his wine glass. He was wearing a shirt covered in flamingos. I was never a financial option, I said. I was just Tessa. The same Tessa you left on a Tuesday. I picked up my bag. I hope the solicitor refunds his consultation fee. And I walked out of the restaurant. Jade caught me on the pavement, slightly breathless. Bernard has been here the whole time? She demanded. Since the starter. The flamingo shirt. I asked him to wear something memorable. She stared at me for a full 3 seconds. Tessa Vaughn, she said. You have been playing 4-dimensional chess since before he even left. 3-dimensional, I said. I'm not greedy. She laughed. The real one. The one that bends her in half. And I laughed too, and the night air was cool, and the city was indifferent, and I was entirely, completely fine. How do you feel? She asked when we'd both recovered, and I thought about it. Actually thought about it. Like I put something down, I said, something I didn't realize I was still carrying. And now? Now my hands are free. Ryan did not contact me after that night. I had not expected him to. Gloria called once. A short voicemail. She hoped I was well. The whole thing had been unfortunate. She would always think of me as a pause, a lovely person. I texted back, "Thank you, Gloria, and take care." I did not hear from her again. Bernard came for Thursday dinner in the flamingo shirt, brought wine he was enormously proud of, and told me stories about my father that were funny and sad and entirely mine. I listened to all of them. Jade came Saturday. We sat in my garden in the good chairs and she said, "What's next?" Expanding the consultancy, buying the studio space, clients I actually care about. Personally, I'm going to travel, and I'm going to be very deliberate about who I let into my life. I looked at her. The people who showed up before I was worth showing up for, that's the only list that matters. She raised her glass. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, I agreed. We sat in the afternoon light and I thought about the Tuesday he'd left, the kitchen floor, the slow, unglamorous process of standing back up. I thought about my father's letter. I hope this gives you room. It had, more than he knew. Ryan came back for what I became. He never understood that I was already becoming it when he left, that his departure hadn't delayed the becoming. It had accelerated it. It had stripped away everything that was performance and left only what was real. What was real turned out to be more than enough for a house with good chairs and a garden with good light, and a best friend who shows up in a witnessing dress, and an uncle in a flamingo shirt who keeps your secrets and tells your father's stories. More than enough. I didn't lose a husband that day he rolled his suitcase out. I lost a burden, and the best thing he ever did for me, the single most useful thing in 6 years, was leave. The people who leave when things are hard are telling you something. Not about you, about themselves. They are showing you the exact depth of their commitment before you have spent any more of your one life waiting for it to be deeper. Ryan left when I had nothing visible on the horizon, and he came back for what I became. But what I became was built in the years he wasn't there. In the kitchen floor mornings and the slow build months and the Tuesday afternoons, I had no one to perform okayness for. He didn't build it. He can't have it. It was never his. He didn't come back for me. He came back for what I became. He just didn't know what I became was someone who saw him coming. If you liked this story, please support us by subscribing and liking, and kindly drop a comment on the location from where you're watching. Thank you.